Welcome back. It is the week of starting on September the 11th. So we had fell on Sunday this week, 21st anniversary of that horrible day, and we again stop and remember and try to be ever vigilant. I was working on that date here at the solicitor's office, and you know, every year I go back to those same memories. We were in court, and I got word that a plane had hit the World Trade Center. So it was about 8:30 or something like that. My first thought was, you know, thinking about a banner plane or something like that. Of course, being around the coast, it was sort of an illogical thought now, but at the time I thought, you know, first, you know, no big deal. Even 20 years ago you were worried that the media was over pumping something, but you know, it ended up being two planes in New York City, one in Washington and one in Field in Pennsylvania. So a day of remembrance. Since that time we've been in several wars and tried to do our best to stomp out evil, terrorism, and obviously we were fortunate enough not to have another incident on our shores. At least incident that big, but you know, if you're in a battle with evil, it is no real way to stomp all of that out. So just remembrance. I remember that being a Tuesday morning, and just how bright blue it was. And I remember after that, this was a simple thing, but just looking up into the sky and not seeing any planes or any trails from planes for days and weeks after. But certainly a lot of lives lost during that time, and we need to always be in remembrance of them. Last week we had a plea week and a couple of cases for you guys. One of them was Dennis Deshawn Stewart, 22, of Sherrall. He pleaded guilty to assault and battery, high and aggravated nature. This occurred at an incident back in May of 2020 where rival people that didn't like each other, groups of people, a total of 8 defendants were arrested, but it was people on both sides of the street bringing their grievances from Sherrall and surrounding areas to Myrtle Beach. Unfortunately, this happens from time to time, and we really hate this part of it. Fortunately, no one was killed. There was a person injured across the street, but these are really difficult cases because there's always some aspect of self-defense. Someone always fired first, and then somebody returned fire. Common sense tells us that we should not, even if we are very angry at another group, when we do this on Ocean Boulevard in May, the likelihood of someone else being injured is very high. But I don't think a lot of thought goes into that until Dennis Stewart is standing in front of a judge. He is 22 years old. At that point, everybody's really sorry, but once a trigger is fired, you can't take that back. And he received 11 years. He will probably serve about 8.5, 9 years before he is parole eligible. So the rest of Mr. Stewart's 20s will remain with us at the Department of Corrections, and just fortunately no one else was injured. That was, not locals. That was what we keep calling day trippers. They were all from Chesterfield County, and there's several other ones of that group that we will have to deal with before it's all said and done. A longsman, Angel Alvarez, 53, pled guilty to criminal sexual conduct with a minor. That is, in layman's terms, statutory rape. In South Carolina, a person cannot consent if they're under 16. CSC third means that they were 14, 15, in that range, and that non-consensual act results in Mr. Alvarez serving 15 years in prison. That was the maximum penalty that was allowed. Now, we put in the press release that he would be a sex offender for the rest of his life. However, there was a change in the rules this past year, and he will come up at some point after 10 or 15 years to see whether or not he can come off the sex offender registry. That was always the rules before, but and it would have been the rule when he would have been charged with this act, but he may be on the sex registry for a period of years, I think 15 years after he finishes his 15-year sentence. So it's about 30 years total. A Myrtle Beach man, 52, Michael Ira Thomas, 52 years old, from Myrtle Beach, received a sentence of 15 years for possession with intent to distribute heroin. Second offense, that again is a non-parole 80% charge, so he will have to serve about 12 or 13 years before he comes up for parole on that charge. He possession with intent to distribute means you may not have been caught on camera actually selling the drugs for money, but you possess drugs in such an amount or in such a way, maybe with baggies or maybe with scales, that it appears you were trying to sell it and make money, as opposed to simple possession. Anyway, yet again another drug seller gets 15 years in prison. So we're in court this week with trials and pleas, and we will update you next week as to how those turned out or any pleas or trials of significance.